And are both in the diagram visible on the screen?
Yes, they're both visible.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else?
Except for the diagram covers the Gemara.
Yeah, it's covering the Gemara. They're both on.
Yeah, so I'll get out of the way until we need it. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're on the Mishnah Lamed Amud Beis. The Vekulan, Shayu Bahen, Kiddushin or Gerushin B'Safik. So just to put the simple case over here, what is that over here? Here. So you have here a two brothers, and one of the brothers had two wives, and he died. But it wasn't so clear that he was married to the one who's an erva. It means if everything would have been clear that this man and this woman are an erva to each other, so then when his brother dies, so she's an erva and she's a tzaras erva, and both of them there's no evil. But the Gemara's Mishnah talks about what if this goes back to the beginning of the Mishnah, and you don't have to know anything else. All these 30 daf in between, a new sugya that there's a suffix that we're not sure if they're married or not. Why they're not sure that I'm married? Either it's a suffix kedushin or it's a suffix gerushin. The Mishnah is going to talk about both cases. That maybe we're not sure if there was a marriage. Means he surely was married to the Torah, but we're not sure if he had been married to this woman. If the kedushin he did was a suffix kedushin, or if it's a suffix gerushin, that maybe we know she was married. Maybe there's a so that's if there would have been body married. If they go free, she goes out to the shuk. She gets anybody, and she would not have been married. Sudden, either this woman is chayiv yibum, she's mutter to the shuk. So because of the suffix, so we don't know them. We're not going to let her come because maybe marriage, and she's not to her brother-in-law that there's no mitzvah of yibum, and she's chayiv yibum, and there's no marriage here, and she chayiv yibum. Husband's brother, and therefore she looks okay, allowed to. You can't go to the shuk, maybe not. So the Tzara is going to do chalitza without yibum in order to cover all bases. And then he gives examples. Kate says Safek Kedushin, Safek La Kedushin, Safek Karvlo, Safek Karvla, Zeo Safek Kedushin. So the Mishnah is very general that he threw a Kedushin. Kedushin would mean a Shtar Kedushin or a Kesef Kedushin, and he threw it to her, and we're not sure how close it got. If it got close enough, it will be considered Kedushin. If not, not. The simple Pshat Rashi talks about the Dalar Amas. If it came within the Dalar Amas as a Kedushin, if not, not. The words are a little difficult because it talks about if it's closer to her. So Rashi is exactly 8 Amas the part, and if he threw it closer to her, it's meaning it's Dalar Amas. If he threw it closer to him, it's within his Dalar Amas. But that's the case. An example of Safek Kedushin, he's not sure if he got the Kedushin to her, so we don't know if she's married or not. Safek Gerushin, what would be a case of a Safek? Kasa v'ksavyoda ben alavedin, alavedin ve'en bozman, ve'en ba'elei. Dechad zeh Safek Gerushin. Gives 3 cases of Safek Gerushin. These cases are not really a Safek, but it really is like Rabbanan. With the rice, it's a good, but with Rabbanan, and the Mishnah calls it, which is going to be the same halacha that we'll see that again on the one level. Under the get. Let's put it on a second.
I don't know if you're doing it bad, but we keep breaking up. The reception is very bad.
Sorry?
The reception is very bad. You keep breaking up.
The reception is bad.
Yeah. I don't know if you could do anything about it.
Okay, well, wait if you come to.
I don't know. I'm just checking the network over here. Let's see if it's what it says here. It says that it's good. Listen, is it bad for you also? Is the connection bad for you?
Yeah, it's very, very
Okay, I'm not
choppy. Gadi had suggested maybe the
Very choppy.
defaulted to the
I
wrong.
don't have, I don't have. I missed it. If you could say it again, it was chopped up.
It is chopped up. Gadi had suggested maybe your computer defaulted to the wrong internet or something.
Oh, I'll check that and I'll look at it again just to make sure that the thing is the right one. Right, was good, but if it's not, I hope everybody, if not, if anybody has to know the different shiurim, everybody do what you have to do. I don't think it's going to be better. It's going to be it's not going to be it's not the computer. It's going to be the Wi-Fi or the internet. Something is not going to.
WhatsApp, I can put you on WhatsApp. Dr. Fine, you want to go on WhatsApp?
Not connecting. Okay, I just have to continue, and I hope that everybody gets to share. Okay, so Suffolk Garrison, right? So it's Suffolk Garrison is not really a Suffolk Garrison. It's going to be more a soldier abundant. So it's not the device is a good guess. She's not married. If she's not married, then she's Chayv Yibum, right? But Rabbanan, she shouldn't do. It says in these cases she does Chalitza.
Jackpot.
Going to be the also again. A little bit more to this over here. I'm sorry about this. Okay, so the Mishnah says of Suffolk condition is case of obligation, and that's the most conscious point out the three cases. He wrote it himself without the Edom, and he gave it to him. That's one soldier Rabban. It's supposed to have Edom, but even if it has Edom, the guest supposed to have a date. We'll see. And Yesh was man. There's not a Edom, and it has his mind, which we said means a soldier. Therefore, less is form as yevamos. Kasha Moshe's kasha. Self-a-kavlo, local say that obligation also give you the same case. He threw her a get, and we're not about my time. Why? That if it will be, let's say, with a suffragation, he threw her a get, was within $1. So now we want to know on the then the husband died. We want to know if she could leave him or not. So say if it was a gift, and she goes free. So the Gemara says in this case, we could leave it that she's married because you have a chazaka. The chazaka was that if she was married, means that she has a chazaka that she goes to free, she goes to the shuk. And you want to be man, go to shuk, she chalitza, don't be man. You can rely on the chazaka. Ishazu b'cheska setel l'shuk omedes. The chazaka because the right, the opposite. She was not married. And this woman, this other woman, she has a chazaka that she's allowed to do Yibum. As far as she knows, before anything started, she was originally allowed to do Yibum. And now the question is, if this woman's Kedushin interfered and made her a Tzara Sarah, she can't do Yibum. So he also say the same thing that the chazaka says, that she's allowed to do Yibum, continue doing Yibum. Kedushin Amilema, Isha Zu. Isha Zu. There's some suffix at the Balosra. I'll randomly suffix. So the Moyen says, you do have a chazaka about a Kedushin case also have a, but Hasam Luchumra, Machme, you're right, that chazaka and she could do Yibum, but we're Machme Besafik to say maybe the Kedushin, and therefore don't do Yibum, don't only Chalitza. But the first Gemara says, the guy should be by getting all the Machme. The Gemara will get to that first. But before that, the Chumra does it like Kula. It's not a good Chumra to do that. You're going to be Machme. You're going to be machmir that she should not do yibum, right? We're saying Kedushin case, really, she has a chazaka, she's allowed to do yibum. You want to be machmir that she should not do yibum, and the marriage. This marriage. A lot of ramifications. If okay, I'm sorry everybody if everybody's on. I'm not sure what's happening today, so we're trying and hope that everybody's enjoying. But I can't see what's happening on all fronts. Is the screen showing? Is the diagram showing also out there?
We don't see the
No
diagram.
diagram.
Diagram. Okay, second please. What's on now? So the Gemara says that to be mach zimne the azal hu makadosh kedusha vada binam zimne the asa acher makadosh la da kedai the chivne the asa la ma the sorrow the yevume amri the kamat kedusha the basal marriage, and we're going to say that midaraisa.
I think the sounds
But
better.
we're going to stop with the chalitza. People will take from
The
that. This
sound
marriage,
better when you don't have the diagram
I'm
on.
sorry.
The sound seems better when you don't have the diagram on.
Maybe go for better. So the Gemara is that if you're gonna not to do yibum, the tzara to do yibum, that's gonna enforce by people that the marriage was a good marriage. Is a good marriage. It has a lot of dangerous ramifications. One ramification is that the husband, this is before he dies, if we tell him that if the halacha is going to be event that he dies, that he's not going to do yibum, all that, we'll get the impression this is considered a marriage. If he marries her sister, let's say he marry her sister, they'll say a marriage because this one was considered a marriage. If he can't, right? But if it's a good marriage, if he would marry his sister after, also marry her. If someone this woman, I will say it's not a good marriage because she's already taken a good marriage. So then that means you can make such a mistake and think that this marriage is being recognized by the Chachamim. Because if it would have been recognized as a marriage, Vadai, there should be a Sarah server. To do Chalitza, it's a safer. So again, what do you want to say so far? The case of Kedushin, you have a Chazaka, she's mutter to do Yibum. The Chazaka says that this marriage was. This marriage, we don't know if it was a marriage or not. And the fact that we're going to be right with the rice he could do. And also say that she should do chalatzes lo yevamos means that on the status quo, the chazaka that she's a tzara, she's mutar l'shuk. Is that true? That as far as we knew, it was originally and then a suffragation happened over here. Says that she's mutar l'shuk, she's a tzara, and say, let's us. The more if even though Midaraisa she has a chazaka that she's mutar l'shuk because she's a tzara serva, be machmir and say that she should get chalitza, and that's not a dangerous from here. Also, people, nothing dangerous is going to happen. The Gemara says no, there is a danger. If we're going to tell her to, so then she might think that she could do ibum also. It goes together. Usually, you have a choice of chalitza or ibum. If you every time you do chalitza, there's a possibility we have to do a couple of chalitzas. It's not make a mistake. Over here, to do ibum is very dangerous. Why? Because Midaraisa, she's not allowed to do ibum. Midaraisa, we say that this was a marriage, really tzara serva, and there's no ibum. Why? Zachiv chorus. Zachiv chorus for her to do. The Raisa, she can make it do chalitza. That's a dangerous one. And she is chayv yibum. And we want to be machmir and say that marriage, and she shouldn't do, she should do chalitza. Over there, the kasha might be also. So people might make a mistake, and if you let her do chalitza, she'll do yibum. Then what's going to say? Loan around, not terrible. She really allowed to do yibum. The case of the suffragation, she's really also to do yibum. She has to go to shuk. And if you tell chalitza, she might do yibum by mistake, and that's a chiv chorus. But the other case, the other opposite case, by the suffrag kedushin, it's not dangerous at all because with the could do yibum because of marriage. And this one is not a source ever. She could do yibum. Ahmed say you should do chalitza. Okay, maybe a she'll do yibum. No, that's fine. That's the fourth line from the Tanami Matama chalitza. The more answers say that. But this to so because if she does chalitza, she might. The Gemara is a kasha. On the 6th line. Here's the next case. So I surely should have made these also two red. I should have made it red. I forgot about that. These two are an error. Here's a regular case, and with the brother had 2 wives. One of his is an error to the brother. So I'm sorry, I forgot to make it red, but we'll take that as a given. Now, both of them died. The husband and wife, both of them died. On a husband and a wife, another wife that's still living. And now the question is the Yibum. So we don't know who died first. The question is we don't know who died first. So let's take the 2 possibilities. If the husband died first, then he cannot marry her because these 2 are falling to this man. This one, she's a Sarah server. Wife died first, and then the husband. Then they could marry because she's not a server because they ever died first. The Kulish is Gash was Mason, so she would be able. So we don't know what to do now. Here's the case: husband and died wife. We don't know who died first. So what happens to this woman? So that is enough of bias. When the Gemara about 7 lines down happens to be also his brother's, which means an error. It's an example of an error. Then you do a we don't know who died first, the husband or wife. So so she needs chalitza, not to do. She can't go free because maybe she's chayim. She can't do yibum because maybe there's no yibum. So therefore, chalitza. And the kasha is amai hachanami nema ishazu had the shuk. From there, yeah. And she would shook if her husband would die. Now you have a suffix. You don't know if she was shook. Why does it say that she had chalitza? Why don't you go with the chazaka? You might say that's a chumrah. But the right says she could go with shook, and with us being mach also have chalitza. But no, that's a dangerous chumrah. We just said that don't make this chumrah if it's dangerous chumrah. Whenever you do chalitza, you might also do yibum. Here yibum is terrible because you might be yibum without a mitzvah, so it's a chiyuv kares. So that's a kasha. If you say that you know with the chazaka, but you're not machmir when it might come to do a yibum when it might be a chiyuv kares. So here also, how could you tell her to do chalitza? The line that's on the chazaka that says she goes to the shuk, she's not with anybody, and she's free, and don't be machmir to say to do chalitza because she might end up doing yibum. The Gemara says two answers for this kasha. Gerushin the shchichi gaza b'rabbanan, mapolos the lo shchichi gaza b'rabbanan. The case before, the Gemara calls the gerushin case. There was a suffer gerushin. We don't know if he divorced her or not. The Chazaka says that she was married and she's a tzara serva with the lashuk, and you want to be machmir and say to do chalitza. Don't be machmir because you might do. This whole scenario, then make this scenario. So I don't have clarity saying that in this case, since there's more reason to be machmir and to say less is going to be, but in this case, that's not so shchiach. We're not going to be there, even though we're saying in this case, if there's but the Gemara says another teretz why there's less reason to be goes over here. Inami. The kaima erba the kamucha but the rasa kamatzra chasla chalitza ami kamu barabanan begita the gita mal yehu rasa libume with Sarah. But mapoles the kamu barabanan and mapoles. The Gemara says this I do understand. I think that this is a very logical difference between the two cases. In the case over here, if we tell her to do chalitza, there's a possible mistake. People would say, how come we're telling you to do chalitza? We knew once upon a time that she was a tzara serva, and there's no reason to do chalitza. I'd say if they're doing chalitza, it must be that the Rabban, there was a suffix. And if the Rabbanan should do chalitza, then they found out that it was a good get. And therefore they tell her to do chalitza because she's not a tzara serva. If so, that's the yibum also. Means that the mistake of the people could be that the Rabbanan, the Chachamim of the door, the Bezdin, they verified the suffix. There was a suffix gerushin, we're not sure if it was a get. And if we say do chalitza, it could be people. It's not, of course, it's not true. It could be they say do chalitza. That's what. But there is room for people to make a mistake and think that Bezdin, they figured out that it is a good get if it, and she should do chalitza or yibum. Here, there's no. They don't think that the Bezdin is Nevi'im. The Bezdin is smart and they can figure out fakis, but that they can't figure out so much such kind of suffix in the Metzias of over there. It also is a little bit of Metzias about suffix korvalo, suffix korvalo. That's something verified. If you have Adim, something might have come with the Hala fell on both of them, and we don't know who died first. That verified who it was. So there's no danger. So you can do sum up what happened in the Gemara. So the woman, the tzara, which we don't know if she's but the case of kedushin is the case of Kabbalah. By the get, it doesn't say such a case. It talks about Rabbanan, then it says Yeveamos, the get possible with Rabbanan, but it doesn't say a case about a suffix. Why not? Rabbi said because you have a chazaka. The chazaka says that you're allowed to rely. She's mutar l'shuk because once upon a time she wasn't tzara, and you don't know if the get disturbed that. So you go back and the chazaka that she's mutar l'shuk, and you want to be machmir and say to me to do chalit. The danger is chumrah because you might do yibum, and yibum shol yaser because the chazaka will say adrabah that she's mamisha. She's a Eisha Sachib Shalom B'Makom Mitzvah. Therefore, don't be machmir. That's the kasha now. About halfway down, first one on the line is B'Mapolis. The Gabi Shemilo Tanan. Kasha was based on doesn't say the Suffolk Gerushin case. It just says in the case of the ratio. The whole diak of Rabba was the fact that it doesn't say it's mashma that there's no chalitza over there. She goes free without any chalitza. And the kasha is now a Mishnah Bayos, but a Mishnah. So the din is that the tzaros cholesis mission that it doesn't say it, say it in the Mishnah Gittin. But not, Paisa read this, Shus HaRabim, the woman was standing in Shus HaRabim, and the husband threw her a get. Lo, Megureshes. Lo, any Megureshes. If it's within a dollar amas, it's a good get. If it's not, then it's not a good get. Mechsal Mech, if it's exactly on the line, Megureshes. So here it talks about between both of them. You have to go into the sukkah over there and Gittin, but it says Megureshes, they know Megureshes, it's like a half a get. Yes and no. Yes, divorce, not divorce. It's like in some issues, yes, we're going to be machmir in both cases. It's like a suffix. For what ramifications do we say that she's considered a get? The kohen who asurle. If the husband threw her to get a suffix get, so then she's also to marry. If they change their mind, he wants to marry her. He can't take her back anymore because maybe it was a get, and the kohen can't take her back a wife after he divorced her. It's a rasa boy chalitza. How much we're looking for? If his was an erva to his brother, so then the tzara is going to be chalatzis mamas yabemes because it's not his brother. We don't let this woman do chalitza. We rely on he goes l'shuk and don't do chalitza because if she do chalitza, she might do yibum, and that's mamash. It doesn't chalitza. That's the most kasha. The answer is, we learned over there in Gittin, the Gemara is saying what kind of suffix it is. It means we said we don't know suffix or law, suffix or guess, we're not sure if it's a get or not. Differentiates now temporarily. It's going to force two or one against one. It means you have two groups of Adam. Two Adam come and say that it was Korah V'lo. Two Adam say it was Korah. That the Gemara says is a serious suffix. You have two Adam. Amish contradicting it, contradictory Adam, strength, two Adam, and that the Gemara says that you don't say chazaka on that. For some reason you don't go back on a chazaka. That's a serious. Go on again. Sorry for this. Has it been better the past couple of minutes, 10 minutes or so? Has it been better?
Very, very choppy.
No.
Very choppy. Okay.
This week.
Yeah, I see it. It's the right one.
Maybe go off and go on. That's going to help.
I should close off and disconnect and connect again.
You
God is
just
telling me
saw.
to disconnect and connect. Okay, so we'll try that. What? Oh, we were disconnected and connected again. We didn't do it on purpose, but we got disconnected again. Disconnect. Okay, that guy has to try it, so we'll try it. Connected. Okay. Are we on again? Does see everybody? Are we on? Yes. Okay, we're on. And
Can I hear you?
am I audible?
Sounds
Yes.
better than before. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Okay. Thank you, Gadi. Okay. So just to sum up what we did, thank you. So we have the Mishnah that says a case of a suffix gerish and suffix kedushin, and we said that Chavas is Lama Shebemes. The Gemara wanted to know why doesn't it say a suffix gerishin also? It only it gives a case of suffix gerishin about a soldier Rabban. And Bozman and Belachat. Why doesn't it say a suffix that he threw the get? He doesn't know if he came close enough to her or not. And that Rabbi said because you have a chazaka that she goes l'shuk, that Sarah goes l'shuk because as far as we know, the status quo says she was married, she stayed married. The get wasn't a get, and that Sarah goes l'shuk. And don't be machmir to say that she does chalitza because she might do yibum, and that's dangerous because she's really the master kasha that the Mishnah in Gittin does say, mamish this case, seems to say this case, a suffix, karvala, suffix karvala, and it says the woman does do chalitza, and you don't say it's dangerous because you might do even by mistake. The Gemara answers it depends. Is it, how did they know it's suffix, the suffix karvala, was it because 2 against 2 or 1 against 1? If it's 2 Adam against 2 Adam, 2 Adam say karvala, 2 Adam say karvala, that's a serious suffix, and on that you're not going to say chazaka. You don't rely on chazaka in such a case, and therefore she needs chalitza minadin because you really don't know. But if it's only 1 against 1, 1 says karvla, 1 says karvla, that's a kind of a suffix that you could rely on the chazaka, and that's why we say she goes free and don't do chalitza because she might do yibum, and that's really awesome. The Gemara inside says over there, Rabbi Yosef Dami Tovai, Wach B'Shekite the Maskinan, Achas Ameres Karvlo, Achas Ameres Karvlo, that will speak of the Raisa, or Masis and Dacha, Bekat Achas, that will speak of the Rabbi. The Mishnah over there is talking about 2 against 2, and that's the reason why it's called the suffix deraisa, a real strong suffix, and the chazaka doesn't help you over there, and therefore you have to do chalitza in malasot. But over here, Amish is talking about 1 against 1, and kat achas, and therefore it's only a suffix rabban. It's not enough to take away the chazaka. The chazaka says that she does go free, and we're not going to be machmir because it's a dangerous chomer. Because if you do chalitza, she might do yibum, and that's really awesome. The Gemara says, how come you want to say that? How come you say, how do you know that Amish is talking about a case of only 1 against 1, not 2 against 2? The Gemara answers, because don't be the Kedushin. The case of Kedushin, when it says he threw a Kedushin, and we're not through if it's closer to her, closer to him, is also talking about when it's 1 against 1, not 2 against 2. How do you know that? First of all, Ma Kedushin b'katachas, av Gerushin b'katachas. But the Gemara says, how do you know the case of Kedushin? For Kedushin, the Gufa, you might have b'katachas, demo b'beis kitei edim. Who says that the case of Kedushin is talking about 1 against 1, maybe it's talking about 2 against 2. So here, the next couple of lines are very difficult how to read it, but I'll just read what Rashi says, and it doesn't seem to make sense. The Gemara is right away going to ask the kasha, but the Gemara says, if it will be 2 against 2, so then the tzara could do yibum. Again, you have 2 against 2 if it was a good marriage or not. 2 Adam said that he married the Erva, 2 married said that he didn't. She used to be an Acheskas Chayiv Yibum. She was the only wife. So, of course, she was in a chazaka that says that if her husband dies, she's going to do yibum to her brother-in-law. But now it's 2 against 2 if Erva came into the picture. And it's going to say that if it's 2 against 2, so she's allowed to continue doing yibum. And that doesn't make any sense. How could you do yibum? 2 Adam say that she's a Saras Erva. Doesn't make any sense. If it's 2 against 2, then she should be able to do yibum. The Gemara says, what are you talking about? There are 2 Adam that are saying that she got married. This Erva got married. And you're going to tell the Sarah to, after her husband dies, you're going to tell the Erva to do Yibum. She's a Sarah's Erva. How could this make any sense? So I don't know what the Gemara thought. And second of all, the Gemara says the whole territory you're telling me doesn't seem to make sense. You're telling me when it's 2 against 2, then it's a serious chazaka, serious suffix, and you don't rely on chazaka. Is that true? It's not true. Whenever you have 2 against 2, also you rely on the chazaka. The 2 against 2 makes it a regular suffix, and now you can rely on the chazaka. And if it be a suffix gerushin, what did the Gemara answer the whole time? That suffix gerushin, you can rely on the chazaka that she is a mutar l'shuk. We don't know if this person got married or not, got divorced or not. So we have a chazaka that she's married, and she's at Sarah 7, she goes l'shuk. And the Gemara says that if it will be 2 against 2, then you cannot rely on the chazaka. She needs chalitza. That's not true. By 2 against 2, also you can rely on the chazaka.
In the case of kedushin, how could you have 1 against 1? There's not 2 Adam. There's no kedushin.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe the case would be that we know that the Adam was standing over there, but the question is only about did it get close enough? Means the Adam saw what happened. There are another 2 Adam over there. They saw what happened. I'm just dreaming as I'm talking. Not that I know that this is the true answer, but the question only to verify the point who was closer to. Means the Adam saw 2 Adam standing on the side. They saw the whole story. Was it closer to him, closer to her? It's going to be a discrepancy of 1 against 1. I'm just trying. But asks that this whole thing you're saying that 2 against 2, you don't go with chazaka. That's not true. 6 lines from the bottom. This also take it the everybody. Welcome for your, thank you for your savlanas. However, okay, so I don't know what happened the past couple of minutes, but we were going further in the Gemara. Just to sum up what we had in Amud Beis, the Gemara on the top, the whole question was how come it doesn't say the case of Safar Gerushin in our Mishnah? And the Rabbi said that it wouldn't be true. She wouldn't need Chalitza because with the Rashi have a Chazaka and she could marry Lashuk and don't make a Rabbanan Chalitza because she might do Yibam by mistake. And the Gemara disproved that on the bottom of Amud Aleph because it said that there's a Mishnah in Gittin that says over there also is Chaletzes. And the Gemara is good with that, that's true. The Gemara tried to get out of it by a case of 2 Eidim, 2 against 2, 1 against 1. The Gemara disproved it and said even by 2 against 2. Also, you go with Chazaka, and you, according to your Pshat, that you are rely on the Chazaka that she goes Lashuk, and you're not going to be Machmech Chaletzes because maybe Mishabemis, then the Kash is that the Mishnah in Gittin does say so. And don't say Chilukim of 2 Eidim against 1. So Abai and Rabba, both of them argue on Rabba and say, no, it's not true, that the Mishnah by us that says Safik Gerushin also means Safik Karvala. It says it by Kedushin and Nuadin by Gerushin. And the difference between Abai and Rabba is Abai says that it goes 2-directional, Gittin to Kedushin, Kedushin to Gittin. But Rabba says no, then the Mishnah wouldn't make sense that it says Zehu. Zehu, this is the case of Safik Kedushin, this is the case of Safik Gerushin. So Rabba argues and says that it's true that even though whatever says by Kedushin applies to Gerushin, but not everything that says by Gerushin applies to Kedushin. And that's what the Gemara is going into now, that the case that the Mishnah says that a psul to Rabbanan of a get would be if it has no date, that doesn't apply to Kedushin. And we're up to about 12 lines down. How come there's no date to have a date in a Shtar Kedushin? And the Gemara talks about how come you do have a date in a get, and we're going to see if that applies also to Kedushin. So far, the Gemara said that there's one reason about Peros, that the husband has a right to eat Peros from the profits of the wife's estate from the time that he gets Nesuin until he decides to divorce her. So the reason why he write to get a date in the divorce document is that we should know, have proof when he has to stop eating the Peros, when the Peros will go back to the wife. And therefore, it's important to write the date in the get. But by the Kedushin, there's no reason to write it inside the document because he doesn't start eating Peros from the time that he gives her a Shtar Kedushin. He doesn't get Peros until he does Nesuin. So there's no purpose in putting the date into the Shtar Kedushin. But now the Gemara is going into the other reason. The other reason that it says about having a date in a divorce document is because if she's Mazana, and Eidim come and say that she's Mazana on a certain day, we have to know when she was divorced. Was the divorce after? If so, she's a Eishes Ish that was Mazana, she's Chayiv Misa. And if she was divorced before, then she was already a Pnuya, she was already not married, and she had relations after she was divorced already. So we have to know when the date is. The Gemara talks about the husband, if the husband would want to cover up for her. The husband, the one who divorced her, doesn't want to cover up for her and help her not to get killed. So the Gemara talks about the case given in the Gemara is always the case where he marries a relative, Basachosa. If he would have married a strange woman, so then if he divorces her, he doesn't have reason to have compassion. She was Mazana and he's throwing her out, and if she divorced, deserves to be killed because of that. He wouldn't interfere. He wouldn't try to cover her up. But if he married a niece, for instance, Basachosa, in a case where even though he's divorcing her, but he still doesn't want her to get killed. So that's what the Gemara talks about, that we put a date into the get in order that he shouldn't be able to cover up and say that the get was before. She was Muzana after the get. So the question is, if so then there's a reason to have a date in the Kedushin also. You have to know when she got married. If she was Muzana, was she married before that and she was Muzana during marriage, or the Kedushin was after this nus and she was not married at the time? So that's the Gemara's kasha. How come you don't put a date into the Shtar Kedushin to know when she was married in case she was Muzana, to know if this nus was before the Kedushin or after the Kedushin? The Gemara says, I'll tell you why. Mishum de'ika, the Gemara is going to say two terutzim. One is Mishum de'ika the Mekadesh B'Kaspa, Vika the Mekadesh B'Shtora. No talking of Banazman. It's not always going to be a foolproof precaution because not everybody's Mekadesh B'Shtar. How do you Mekadesh? Now, I don't know what most people do Kedushin. Nowadays, everybody, they give a ring and they say, Avet Mekudeshesli. Over there, there's no date. The date only would be if somebody decides to do Kedushin B'Shtar, he gives a piece of paper, Avet Mekudeshesli, which we don't do nowadays. So then there'll be an issue of putting a date. It's true. If someone would be Mekadesh B'Shtar, it would be beneficial to have the date in order to be able to have records when the marriage started, in order if she's Muzana, but she Muzana before, Muzana after. But not everybody has to do that. You don't have to Mekadosh B'shtar, you can Mekadosh B'kesef. So since it's not going to take care of the problem always, it's not always going to be recorded what date it happened if she's Mekadosh B'kesef. So therefore, even though Mekadosh B'shtar, we're not going to take care of that case and make it that we should be able to have records because it's not going to be foolproof anyway. Amalei Rav Acha Beider Rav Yosef the Ravashi Ba'avda Dika the Kani B'kaspa Dika Ika B'shtov V'Tokab Wanazman. By someone, if someone buys an Eved Kanani, so there are two ways to buy an Eved, either B'shtar or B'kesef. And over there isn't to write in the document, the sale document, there isn't to write the date because it has ramifications about the estate of the Eved that belongs to the master. And over there, even though it's not foolproof, because sometimes if someone's going to be going to the Eved with Kesef, it's not going to be documented when it happened. Still, whatever you could do, you could do. So you see that you do whatever you could do, you do, even though it's not foolproof. The same way you write a date in the Shtar Mecher of Eved Kanani, also you should write a date in the Shtar Kedushin, even though you don't always have it. Amalei, where's the Mor's answer? Most people, when they buy an Eved, they do have a sales document. You could do it with Kesef, but most people do it with a Shtar. But by Kedushin, most people do it with Kesef. Most people give a ring, so usually it's not a date. For those few people who are going to do a Shtar Kedushin, we don't have to make a date because most people anyway don't have it.
So we do one or two, three things like we know. There's three things. There's
So only
Kinyan and
So only Shtar is going to have a possibility to have a date, and the Bia and the Kesef is not. So since usually you can't, in most cases you're not going to be able to document when it happened. So we're not going to make a takana special for those who do it with Shtar to be able to have a date, even though it would be beneficial to have the date.
The word they didn't enforce it because of all the reasons.
There's no Allah you have to be Kaddish B'shtar, you can be Kaddish B'kesef. He shouldn't be B'kesef. So there's no reason to make Dafka with a Shtar. And therefore, those people that don't make a Shtar, there's not going to be documented when it happened. So we don't make a document for the people who do have a Shtar. Iboy Sema, the other answer is like a halak, Mishum Delo Efsha. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help you to put a date into the Shtar Kedushin. Well, the one is going to answer because where's the document going to be? Where are we going to hold the document?
We have a chiv to have it in our house all the time.
So the woman who's Mizana, when she is going to be taken to court by Bezdin that stand trial that she was Mizana, she'll tear up the Shtar and prove me that I'm married. And even if she has the Shtar, she'll erase the date and she'll say that I was married later. And there's no way to prove when she was married. As the Gemara is going to say, if you don't have the Shtar, then you can't kill her because you don't know that she was married. If you leave it by her, she'll erase it. She'll erase this man. Then when it comes time to kill her, she'll say, I was married afterwards. And she won't be able to prove it differently. And you can't kill her on a suffix. You have to be able to prove that she's Chayv Misa. And since she can't prove it, she has a Cheskas Panuya. And now you want to prove that she was married. She doesn't know. We don't know when she was married. The day, leave it by the husband also. Sometimes it'll be a relative, like the Gemara says, the niece, and he wants to cover up for her, even if he's divorcing her, and he's not happy about the fact that she was Mazana, but he doesn't want to kill her, and therefore he's going to cover her up and also say erase it, and you're not going to know when she was married anyway. Then leave it by the Aiden. So listen, if they remember when it happened, they can come without the Shtar anyway and come and say that when she got married. They don't need the document. If below, and if they don't remember, then the Chazu Miksava, Basu Misadli, they're going to come look in the Shtar, and then they're going to testify based on what it says in the Shtar, and they don't really remember, and that's not a good testimony. That they have to testify from what they remember, not from what they look in the document. So therefore, there's no Eitzah, means we really would like to have the date, but we have no way of controlling it, because even if we're going to put the date, it's going to get erased. So if I get also, why does I have to put the date? In order to know when she was divorced, also they could erase it. No. If she erases the get, then on the contrary, then she's even more trouble. If we know she was married and she was Mazana, we're going to kill her. She has to prove her innocence by showing she was divorced beforehand, before this news. So if she's going to erase the get or hide it or whatever she does to it, then on the contrary, she's going to be killed because she doesn't have proof that she was divorced. So that's the difference between a get and a kedushin. By the get, she has to keep it in order to be able to show that she was divorced, and she has no way of erasing the date, because if it's going to be that she really was Mazana, and erasing the date is not going to help her, she's still going to get killed. But by the kedushin, we have no way of controlling it, because even if we're going to write the date, if she's going to want to save herself, she's going to erase it, and she'll say that I was married later. So therefore, there's no purpose in writing the date and the get. in a kedushin.
There you get, you have a copy that goes that sits in the base then.
Now this is new thing. This is new. Chaim Dov's talking about new modern times that have records in the Bezdin, and that they didn't have in those days. They didn't have records in the Bezdin, and therefore they had to keep it by somebody. And there's no way to control it that we should have the records. So there's no purpose of having a date anymore. Ad Khan today's Gemara. Just to sum it up, the Mishnah said there was a Safek Kedushin, Safek Gerushin to the Erva. So the Torah it's Choleses Lo Moshe Bemes. The Gemara comes out that there's no difference if it will be a Safek Kedushin. A Safek Gerushin is also like that, even though the Mishnah gave examples about Kasav Iksav Yodo, Ein Alav Zman, Ein Alav Echad. Also by Gerushin, also be the same thing if it will be a Safek Karvlo. Also the din will be Choletzes, and even though there's a Chazaka, that she is allowed to marry Lashuk because she was a Tzara Serva. You don't know if the get happened to the Erva, and therefore she's not allowed to go Lashuk because she's not anymore Tzara Serva. But since it's a Safek, you go with the Chazaka, and she's allowed to go Lashuk. I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up. I started saying that Mandiyama. There is a Chazaka, but still you say Choletzes Lo Moshe Bemes. There is a Chazaka. It is true that there is a Chazaka, and she can go Lashuk, but we're Machmer and say Choletzes. And even the Rabbi said, there's a problem. It's a dangerous chumrah because if choletzes then mishabemes, it seems we don't like that. The Mishnah Gittin says in this case also you say choletzes. You don't say that it's a dangerous chumrah. You do chalitza. At the end,
Which is the modern halacha is that we only do choletzes.
that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. You're talking about that we don't do yibum at all. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the case when they did do yibum, and still the din over here would be that you have to do chalitza without yibum because it's a suffix. She can't do yibum because maybe she's also to do yibum. And it's mitzvah. So that's the end of the Gemara. That even though the Mishnah only says a case of Psul Rabbanan and the Gittin that you do Choletzes Lo Moshe Bemes, so too if it's going to be a suffix, even though there's a Chazaka that says she could go to Shuk, we are going to be machmir and say to do Chalitza. We're not Choshish Ematom Choletzes Moshe Bemes. The also get end was only the lashon of the Mishnah that it says Zeu Kedushin Zeu Ge.